I have to say it again like I said it before. As of writing and recording this video, there are, not including graphic novels and comics, 30 full-length novels in the Halo franchise. About 2 years ago, I had read just 13 of them and tried to look up recommendations on which I should read next. All I could find were posts of people saying I should read those 13 I already read, especially the first 6, which were written when Bungie was in control of Halo pre-2010, over a decade ago. So if I couldn't have the message of what to read delivered to me, I told myself I'd leave that message for others. I've now read 29 Halo novels, looking forward to the 30th releasing soon, and I'm here to help you decide which of them you'd like to read. I'll do this by giving you each book's plot setup, explaining how it relates to other Halo media, telling you what I liked and disliked, and saying why you might want to read it. So as to not overload you with information, this is my 4th video discussing the topic, and I'll be looking at the 20th through 25th books, all released between 2017 and 2019. And just like last time, I'm not sure starting from book number 1 is the right choice for everyone, with the books here being solid candidates for your next read. But 3 of the 6 books I'm discussing here are sequels to ones I talked about in my last video, so if you haven't either watched that or read these 3 books, go watch that video. And once you do, don't forget about this one, because I'm talking about 3 of my 5 favorite Halo books, with probably my favorite in this video. I'm going to keep my plot explanations from roughly the first half of each book, but to discuss the sequels I need to reveal some components of the endings of the previous books. So in those cases, I will give spoiler warnings, and even for the things I do reveal, I'll do my best to leave you with the questions of how and why, which will leave more than enough intrigue to motivate you to read those stories should you want to. Now, on to the first book. Halo Envoy is about a woman named Melody who is sent by the United Nations Space Command to represent it diplomatically when negotiating control of Cairo, a scarce but habitable desert planet. She's aboard the ship of Sangheili, or Elite Fleet Master Rojka Kassan, negotiating with him as he leads the Sangheili on the planet. A bit of background. Before the Human Covenant War, Cairo was a human colony, and of course, the Covenant found it and conducted its usual activities of killing as many humans as it could, but a lot of them were able to evacuate. Now, towards the end of the war, Spartan 2 Grey Team, made up of J006, Adriana 111, and Mike 120, nuked the Sangheili planet of Glyke to give the Covenant a taste of its own medicine, and many of the Sangheili inhabitants were forced to flee their homes, many of which found the former human planet of Cairo, and since it wasn't occupied, they settled there. Fast forward to peacetime after Halo 3, and human refugees originally from Cairo return, and when they find out there's a Sangheili city inland that's home to some of the resources the people from Cairo need for survival, tensions begin to rise until Melody is sent in to talk with Rojka right at the boiling point. So, Melody is on Rojka Kassan's ship, negotiating about how the 2 groups will continue to live together on the planet, and Rojka is content with trying to start a cooperative new life with the 2 species. All the while, Rojka's ship and his surrounding fleet have their guns pointed at another fleet from the same Sangheili colony, led by an elite named Thars, who does not like humans. When Rojka begins to negotiate with Thars over the radio, the reinforcements Thars has been waiting for show up in the form of another fleet led by the Jiralhane, or brute chieftain named Hekabe, and they open fire. Rojka orders his fleet to fire back, and Melody takes advantage of the chaos, running to the vehicle bay for her real objective, to defrost Spartan Grey Team, who are secretly captured by Rojka in preparation for punishment for nuking and destroying his former planet of Glyke. So, Rojka, even though friendly to humanity, still has a secret grudge against the Spartans, and Melody, being an undercover Office of Naval Intelligence agent, knew this the whole time. When Melody frees Grey Team and Rojka's fleet starts to lose the battle, she finds that the Spartans refuse to talk to each other anymore, only communicating some essential battle information, and they're hiding the reason why. It's a complicated setup, and it is entirely contained within this book. Cairo is the planet introduced in the short story Oasis from Fractures, but it's not necessary for this story setup. Also, Grey Team are recurring characters, but the plot has nothing to do with their original book, The Cole Protocol, so you can go in with no prior book knowledge. As a bonus, the Drinal, or Sharkoi, from the pamphlet in the Halo 2 Limited Edition and the Halo CE pre-release build are canonized here. If you only have time for one book from this video, or even one book from all of the 343 era books so far, choose this one. As a single book, it is by far the most interesting of them in my opinion. It has themes on post-war forgiveness, conflict, guilt, and refugee resettlement. It makes you think, all in the backdrop of the post-Human Covenant War foreigner arms race in the Halo universe. It does what Hunters in the Dark was trying to do, but far better. And in my opinion, this is what the novel should be used for in the Halo series, to tell challenging and thought-provoking stories that wouldn't work well in a game. I'd like to point out my wording earlier, where I said if you only have time for one book, you should read this one. But what if you have time for 2 books, or 3? I won't say yet, but maybe there are some sequels that I think are just as deserving of your attention as Envoy is. Halo Retribution is a direct sequel to Halo Last Light, taking place only a few months after the events of that book. Fred 104 of Blue Team, the main character in the previous entry, takes a bit of a sideline as Detective Veda Lopez jumps in to take most of the book's attention this time around. She's been tasked by Oni to lead her 3 Gamma Spartan 3 companions, Mark, Ash, and Olivia, in a new team called the Ferrets, on another murder investigation that took place aboard a UNSC vessel. Head of Oni, Saren Osman, calls them aboard to investigate the murder scene and to give them details on the family of a high-ranking UNSC officer whose family has gone missing, likely kidnapped by the killers. Their 2 main suspects are the Banished, who are starting to harass anyone they can in the galaxy now that the Covenant is out of their way, and the Keepers of One Freedom, a group of ex-Covenant and some human fanatics still looking to finish the Great Journey, led by a brute named Castor. After deducing that the Banished would probably kill rather than kidnap, Veda and her team set out with the goal of rescuing the captured civilians, so they need to hunt down the Keepers, who set up a base on a mysterious moon filled with foreigner ruins. It's a tough job relying on a former detective and a trio of Spartan 3s to take on an entire group of alien nutcases, but luckily, Fred, Linda, and Kelly of Blue Team are in orbit, ready to help if anything goes wrong. And you know it does. Slip-space distortions, crazy human keepers, and the plot of a mastermind far beyond the capabilities of the Keepers of One Freedom are all present here. And that mastermind is quite the threat, making for a type of villain the Halo franchise has yet to see. Much like Last Light, Halo Retribution abandons the murder mystery quickly by revealing the killer to the readers maybe a third to halfway through the book, but that's okay because it remains as dramatic irony as our heroes don't know. And those heroes are entertaining to read about too, with the Gammas and Detective Lopez having a new dynamic for the Halo series as Veda fills the mother role for the Gammas who are all in their teens, hence them calling her Mom. Retribution features a solid storyline and villain, some good characters, and familiar and new locations, including Meridian and the Argent Moon space stations from Halo 5. I like the book, but I didn't love it because the character interactions and dilemmas aren't as strong as Envoy or Moral Dictata, nor is there a whole lot of new world building like in Cryptum, Broken Circle, or Glasslands, but I do really enjoy its strengths. Also, to continue off my tangent from the last video, it has nothing to do with Halo 5's plot, even if it has common locations. Aside from Veda, in my opinion, being a stronger character than Fred was, there's not much this book offers that Last Light doesn't, other than the Governor Sloan and Saren Osman cameos. So if you liked Last Light, read it. If you didn't, don't. It really doesn't do anything better or worse. To preface Legacy of Onyx, I read this after I read Silent Storm, Renegades, and Bad Blood, which all released after this book. When I read the first page from the perspective of Molly Patel, who recalls the Covenant's attack on her homeworld, I thought, isn't this nice? I can finally relax and just think about good guys versus bad guys again, like I did in the Fall of Reach and First Strike. I won't need to think about anything difficult here. I wasn't sure if I'd put it to Legacy of Onyx's credit yet, but it was here I realized that the Halo novels were giving me more than guilty pleasure entertainment. They were making me think about what's right and wrong, how to make difficult choices, how to trust and determine what's necessary for survival. They've been making me think about wonderful worlds and how people live in them, the kinds of government systems needed to protect them while keeping freedoms, and how you just can't help everyone in their time of need. To this, I say bravo 343 and bravo to all these authors who've imagined these worlds, characters, and stories. I never thought I could have read a Halo novel and get more out of it than simple sci-fi action, but I've been proved wrong, and I'm grateful for it. Halo Legacy of Onyx follows Molly Patel, a 16-year-old girl who lost her family 9 years earlier in the Covenant glassing of her homeworld Paris 4 in 2549, after which she's adopted by 2 scientists, living peacefully on Earth, minus 1 invasion by the Covenant, until 9 years later when Molly's 2 step-parents are contracted by Oni to research foreigner sites on a brand new, top-secret research site in a state-of-the-art community. Their assignment is to investigate large foreigner machines that remain nameless for a good chunk of the book, but you can look to the front cover for a hint. They leave Earth and make for the new interspecies community, including humans, Sangheili, and Ungoi or grunts, called Parapalaxis, on the planet Onyx. When she arrives there, Molly's resentment for the Covenant that killed her family makes her struggle to make new friends of other species at school. But this is a new generation. They're adolescents just like Molly, and they didn't have anything to do with the war of their parents. It's especially difficult for her when she's almost forced to make new friends with them, since she, another human named Kareem, and Ungoi named Gadam, and an awkward Sangheli named Asum are all outcasts in Molly's new school. To the relief of her step-parents who can't get Molly to tone down her racism, Molly looks up to the military after a particularly charismatic Marine rescued her on Paris 4, and Spartan 3's Tom and Lucy, as well as their old mentor Chief Mendez, are there to push her in the right direction. So, where does the book's tension come from? It's from a returning, very minor character from Halo Glasslands, Dural Umdama, leading what he considers to be the remainder of the Servants of Abiding Truth, with the former Covenant Field Marshal and head of the Servants, Avu Med Telkem, there as his mentor. They found their way to Onyx using the same portal network Jul Mdama found in his escape to Requiem from Onyx, with the goal of wiping out everyone in Parapalaxis and taking the Forerunner technology-rich Onyx for themselves. And they are hoping to find Jul along the way after he, from their perspective, disappeared multiple years ago in the events of Halo Glasslands. Despite the title, this is not a sequel to Ghosts of Onyx. It does have some returning characters from that book and the following Keel 5 trilogy books like Tom, Lucy, Mendez, and the Engineer Prone to Drift, but not quite any plot lines unless you count the Servants of Abiding Truth. I'm not a huge fan of this book, which is strange because I've really enjoyed Matt Forbeck's other Halo novels. I think it's just the premise here. It'd be cool to follow the scientists, but following a 16-year-old girl causing trouble in middle school just isn't too exciting in a Halo book. I did have some fun reading it though. The first chapter detailing Molly and her family as they're desperately trying to escape Paris 4 while Covenant ventral beams start raining down from the sky is one of the most powerful moments in the Halo series. On the opposite side of the tonal spectrum is her first day at school where she encounters corny human bullies picking on the elites and grunts, and it's just too stupid not to be entertained with. At the same time, I rolled my eyes several times while reading this. The school scenes can get way too cheesy, and if you saw my second video, you know I don't like the Servants of Abiding Truth very much. I'd only recommend reading this one if you want to read every Halo novel like me, or want more mixed bag Halo media aside from the TV show. It's not terrible, just not very good either. Before we're done talking about Legacy of Onyx, I have a tiny gripe with its plot. After Glasslands taking place in 2553, Jul Mdama disappears from the perspective of his family and the Servants of Abiding Truth. It makes sense that his son, Dural, would want to go out and find him, but why is Telkem, basically the leader of the Servants of Abiding Truth, here in the middle of nowhere with his lieutenant's son with only a couple dozen other elites? I get it, the Servants are losing their war against the Arbiter and the Swords of Sanghelios, but they haven't lost yet by the start of this novel. Their final stand happens on Sanghelios in Halo 5, like midway through the events of this book. Why is Telkem here and not there? Also, it's not entirely clear if Jul Mdama's Storm Covenant from Halo 4 and the Servants of Abiding Truth are two separate factions. So if they were the same faction, how did Telkem never find Jul Mdama if his forces were actively fighting against the UNSC? If they were different factions, why was Jul Mdama's Covenant fighting the Swords of Sanghelios on their planet in Halo 5 when he could keep looking for Forerunner tech? Why isn't it Telkem's forces instead fighting the Arbiter? Maybe I'm just confused about the factions at play, or maybe I missed something in the graphic novel Escalation, because this makes no sense. Anyway, on to a better book. Halo Bad Blood is not only the sequel to Halo New Blood, but also starts during the ending of Halo 5 Guardians. It follows Spartan 4 Edward Buck, with him beginning his tale by telling how he, the rest of Fireteam Osiris, and Blue Team traveled back to Sanghelios after Cortana's hostile takeover of the galaxy, and reunited with Dr. Halsey, Spartan Palmer, and the Arbiter. Because it's AI, Roland chose to side with humanity instead of Cortana. The UNSC Infinity is still in active service and hidden from her forces. So, the Spartans can reboard and get their next mission to ensure the survival of humanity. When Buck gets aboard, he's taken aside from Fireteam Osiris to talk to his lover, Veronica Dare. But she's not here to get romantic, she's talking to him as a representative of Oni, telling him it's time for him to separate from Osiris and be a squad leader again. Unfortunately, to explain the rest of this, I have to spoil some of New Blood, but I am keeping it light. So if you don't want to hear it, skip forward to the spoiler safe timestamp on screen now. 3, 2, 1, okay, spoiler time. Much to his dismay, Veronica tells him that not only does he have to pick up Spartan Romeo from a methane-filled grunt planet, not only does he have to go to the now occupied by Guardians Earth to rescue Virgil and Sadie from the moon, but he has to go to a potentially compromised Spartan 4 training station and take the man who betrayed him, Spartan Mickey, out of prison and fight side by side with him again, because Oni sees the insurrectionist sympathizing Mickey and the rest of Alpha 9 as the only way to beat Cortana and save the galaxy. When I started reading this, I found it odd that Alpha 9 had to be put back together after the previous book's events had torn them apart, but now I'm seeing it was part of a greater vision. In my opinion, Halo Bad Blood is about trust and difficult decisions. Much like Halo Envoy, it makes you think about the actions of these characters and put yourself into their shoes. There's some great emotional moments in here that put Spartan Buck to the test. This book is also only one of 2 novels taking place between the events of Halo 5 Guardians and Halo Infinite, and compared to Shadows of Reach, I think this one gives a much wider image of what the universe is like after Cortana's hostile takeover of the galaxy compared to the other book. Plus, you get a big cameo from Spartan 3 June from Halo Reach on that Spartan training facility, which is featured via a hologram in Halo Infinite's campaign. So, I highly recommend Bad Blood for anyone who wants more of those familiar faces from ODST, or wants to know about what the Halo universe is like after Halo 5. Just try to read New Blood first, the previous and only other book following Spartan Buck. Unless you count his brief appearance in Halo Bad Blood and a short story or 2 in Evolutions, it has been about 15 years and 20 books since the last time we had a novel about our hero, Spartan 2 John 117, the Master Chief. Obviously, when I saw a new book about the main character of the Halo series was coming out, and they released a special audio excerpt from the book narrated by Steve Downes, the voice of Master Chief, I was pretty excited. Halo Silent Storm takes us back into the earliest days of the Human Covenant War in 2526, only a year after First Contact. The UNSC is realizing that without something big to fight the Covenant, this war is just a clock ticking down to humanity's demise. Fortunately, the Office of Naval Intelligence initiated the Spartan 2 program about 10 years prior, where ideal child candidates were kidnapped from their homeworlds, then trained and augmented to be humanity's last hope, when a brutal interplanetary civil war threatened to tear humanity apart. Because the UNSC High Command, like Admiral Preston Cole, realized they need to start gathering intel on the Covenant fast, they decide using the Spartans is their best bet. These incredible super soldiers in their new Mjolnir armor that augments their movement, strength, and senses are tasked with boarding Covenant cruisers, taking as much intel as they can, planting nukes, and sending the ships back to Covenant space where they can wreak havoc. This early in the war, a lot of Spartan 2s are still present and fighting close together, such as Blue Team led by John 117, Gold Team led by Joshua 029, and Green Team led by Kurt 051. They're all going to be sent out on the Covenant craft with Special Forces ODST battalions and Sergeant Avery Johnson to complete one of these missions. Little do they know that they're about to have a new set of problems on their hands. The Rebel Front is still active, and its key members, including double agents in the UNSC and Arlo Casil, the politician from the Ferret trilogy, are doing their best to form an alliance with the Covenant. Not only this, but the Spartans have gotten the attention of a special group of Sangheili, the Silent Shadow, led by Fleetmaster Nizat Cavarosi, and they're ready to stop the Spartans in whatever they're doing next. It sounds like a great premise. This is a period in the war we haven't gotten content for in a long time, with many Spartans still active, Master Chief's introduction to Johnson, and a cool sub-faction of the Covenant, the Silent Shadow, which could make for some great villains. In practice, I did not enjoy those things nearly as much as I thought I would. Troy Denning's writing comes off as very slow, which is fine in mystery novels like Halo Last Light and Retribution, but not in mission-based books about combat. Plus, there's not very much room for creativity when writing this, since it follows Master Chief, who, from a marketing perspective, would have all his character development reserved for the games, so going in you know they can't do anything interesting with his character arc. I wish it could have followed one of the Spartans we don't know as much about, like Kurt, Anton, or Will, and that way, there's a lot more room in writing creativity. I also need to mention that the full audiobook is narrated by Scott Brick, one of the usual narrators, rather than Steve Downes, which is okay, but not as exciting as having Master Chief voice the entire thing. However, the Silent Shadow does pick up some of the weight just because of how crazy they are compared to the usual Sangheili, and Johnson got his charisma back after his drinking spree and Contact Harvest, so that's great too. Castor and his Lieutenant Orson, the two brutes from Halo Retribution, also get a cameo, which is cool, and you see John 117's promotion to the Master Chief in this book, which is cool, but a bit anticlimactic. Overall, it seems I enjoyed this book a lot less than most people. As someone who has read all 23 novels up to this point, this book just treads old ground that Eric Nyland did a lot better. I'm still glad I read it, but I probably wouldn't touch it again. So I might recommend it to someone who hasn't read Halo The Fall of Reach and First Strike yet, but why would you read this instead of those? So in that case, I guess the main attraction is the Silent Shadow. Read this if you want to know about them, but just know these specific elites from this book do not appear in Halo Infinite. If you want Master Chief and the Spartan 2s, read the Nyland books. They're great. The sequel to Halo Smoke and Shadow, Halo Renegades continues the quest of Ryan Forge and her friends seeking out Ryan's MIA father, John Forge, in 2557. While adventuring in their ship, the Ace of Spades, Ryan Forge and her crew of Kip, Ram, Nico, and Les, searching for the UNSC Spirit of Fire, the ship that housed John Forge, the crew stumbles across the shattered remains of Etran Harborage, a shield world that is far from a functional state. Aboard the wreckage, Ryan finds a computerized fragment of the shield world's old monitor, which she comes to call Little Bit, or LB. Having no other purpose in existence, LB joins Ryan in her quest and starts giving her more leads to the Spirit of Fire. A civilian having foreigner tech aboard her ship gets the attention of the Office of Naval Intelligence, and they assign Captain Annabelle Richards and her team to hunt down the Ace of Spades. After some initial interactions, Ryan decides Oni is made up of scumbags who would never tell her what happened to her father. LB gives the Ace of Spades highly advanced slipspace upgrades, and they flee, continuing the hunt. With the help of LB, the Ace and crew beat Oni to their next prize, the wreckage of the UNSC Rubicon, the first ship sent to the Ark after the end of the Human Covenant War, which was mentioned in Halo Hunters in the Dark. Ryan and friends land, and when they start investigating the ship, they can't find what Oni is looking for. The whole crew is dead and in a mass grave, the ship is beyond functioning, and the only thing worth looking at is a bunch of metal pieces that appear to make up a robot lying on the ground. The Ace's crew picks up the robot pieces, reboards their ship, and leaves before Oni can catch up. While they've left it in their cargo hold, this armature reassembles itself standing 3 meters tall, quietly walks towards the cockpit, and gives the crew the biggest scare they've ever had. I do have to put out another spoiler warning for this book and Halo Primordium, because of what this armature reveals. It's not revealed too late in the story, I knew what it was going in, and the Polygon video about the Halo books does reveal it if you watched it. Anyway, spoiler-free timestamp on screen if you do want to skip past it. Spoiling in 3, 2, 1. This armature reveals itself to be an enemy of Oni, and it is the consciousness of the ancient human Chikas, 343 Guilty Spark. After the Rubicon's crew found him on the Ark, he took over their ship, crashed it, and is now set on finding his old mentor, the Librarian, who he believes to be still alive. He cuts a deal with Ryan that she will let him control their ship and use it to find the Librarian if he helps her find the Spirit of Fire. I really thought there couldn't be another 343 era book that could top Envoy's appeal to a Halo nerd like me, but my faith was rewarded when I got to Halo Renegades. Not only do you get some entertaining characters like Ryan and the rest of the Ace of Spades crew, as well as an underdog race against Oni, but you get 343 Guilty Spark, the monitor who killed Johnson, working with a civilian crew who has no idea how dangerous he is. There is this constant tension of if Spark is going to go back into red mode like he did in Halo 3, and it's just so exciting. It's his journey of trying to find who he was, constantly remembering things about his past life as this Stone Age human, Chikas, and coping with the fact that it was stolen from him by the Foreigners who stuck him on a Halo ring, shoved his consciousness into a metal shell, deprived him of emotions, and abandoned him for 100,000 years. I love Halo Renegades, and it is probably my favorite of the 29 Halo novels I've read. I love that Ryan and Spark are both chasing after something completely lost in tragedy, and neither of them know it. The dramatic irony of both of their quests adds to this greater tension, since we know both main characters are hotheads and things could go awry if they react the wrong way. At the same time, they all know they can't lose it because Oni, the most powerful organization in the galaxy at the time, is hot on their tail. Of course, the book was a lot better for me because I read Primordium, so I know just what Chikas lost, and I played Halo Wars, so I know Ryan's quest is futile, but I still recommend it to anyone who wants more of Smoke and Shadow, more about the Spirit of Fire, more about Guilty Spark, or just a great emotion-driven story in the Halo universe. I just can't recommend it enough for anyone who has an interest in those things. Add Halo Renegades to your list of books to read, but make sure you at least read a summary of Primordium first, and it may help to read Smoke and Shadow too. There you are, my mini reviews on the 20th through 25th of the Halo novels. Just like in the last video, I hope my thoughts and knowledge have helped you decide which of these, if any, you'd like to read next as a fan of the Halo franchise. I have just one more video to go, giving my thoughts on the Halo books released between 2019 and 2022, with Halo the Rubicon Protocol releasing soon, being the final one in these videos. I'm not sure how well these books sell, so I'm not sure if they'll keep releasing them as frequently as they have for the past few years going forward, especially since projects like the Paramount Plus TV series and Halo Infinite currently have mixed receptions. Join me next time when I talk about the conclusions to Ryan's, Master Chief's, and Veda Lopez's current book plot lines in my 5th video.